Have you ever become addicted to the different kind of digital distractions that we usually have, and that you become craving for these different substances which are high in sugar and also in trans fats or any other type of toxic fat? Well, we live in this digital society and fast-paced society that is driving us crazy in terms of the attention span that people have. It is just ridiculous how many small videos and short videos people can't even stand to have the attention of 30 seconds or let alone 1 minute. So we have become completely slaves of this digital technology because we really don't understand what is happening in our brain. Literally, we are going to see today how we are melting the different regions of our brain and how we are also creating these epigenetic marks such as methylation or acetylation in our DNA, and how this methylation is creating a defective DNA that is going to produce defective or low quality proteins, of course, and you will start having these cycles of not feeling motivated literally by anything, and you will start then entering into these cycles of anxiety. So these technologies were perfectly designed and researched in terms of the psychological and biological damage that they can cause. That's why every iteration of the different applications that we have is more addictive than the last one. And that's why we nowadays we don't have this long content form of videos, and we have a sea of very short videos that people are just scrolling, and they don't even have the attention span to absorb the knowledge that they should be able to absorb or to learn. So these cycles, how do we break them, and how do we understand this reward system in our brain? All of this is going to be covered in this episode. So stay until the end, because I'm going to also give you the strategies to really create a dopamine reset, a detoxification of your brain and your body, of course. And I'm going to give you a diet that is going to increase the level of demethylation enzymes and erasers, let's say, of these methylation marks, that is going to clean your DNA and leave it really healthy. So stay until the end and let's go with this information. So the first part that I want to cover is how do we have a wanting system and a liking system? How is this activated in our brain in terms of the reward that we are obtaining? The wanting system is a motivational magnet, and it is activated in the region of the mesolimbic dopamine brain, where it drives the chase and the acquisition of rewards. So this is not the pleasure of consumption. This has a level of a peak where you have this drive and craving, and you start wanting this dopamine drive and the chase of more. And what happens when these circuits are activated with these multiple cues, such as these notification sounds that you receive, the pings, and the sight of a sugary snack, or the smell of a cigarette, or the multiple things that they are just designing to lure your attention, which is, of course, more, let's say, visually impactful images, so that you become, that they grab your attention first. They grab the attention and they make them more attractive each time. So they trigger the urgent drive to consume the dopaminergic surge that then shifts the reward itself to the cue that predicts it. So what does this mean? This means that when you start wanting these notifications, you create a threshold, and you increase your threshold for these experiences. And the more it sounds, the more you want. The more you watch these small short content videos, the more you are addicted, and the time just goes by, and you lost practically more or less 1 hour just watching these social apps. And then you have a crash, and then you become anxious, and then you start consuming another thing that is going to raise again the level, but it doesn't raise it to the same exposure that you had with this digital technology. And we are going to see how much is the level of these technologies that are increasing the dopamine surge. So this neurochemical shift reinforces the chase, and you want more and you want more, and they ensure that you become focused on the acquisition rather than the consumption. So you don't even enjoy watching any kind of video anymore. You don't even enjoy a meal that was supposed to be delicious for you, because you are just numb in terms of your taste, in terms of your visual cue, and in terms of your attention. So this liking system is very fragile and is restricted. Pleasure is just a gloss painted by these tiny hedonic hotspots using the opioids. So this is a drug that is released in our brain, but if they use it by these multiple distractions and pings and notifications, and then the surge of serotonin, what you obtain is that you are easily overwhelmed by the constant dopamine spikes. And at some point, you will crash, and you will feel that you don't have anything to be motivated about. And this is what is happening um, in your experience. This is what is happening in terms of these liking and fragile systems that you have already created, and it's difficult to get away from them because you don't understand them. But that's why I'm explaining to you that this is the most deleterious effects that you can have. Now, let's change the scenery to see what happens in the DNA. And this is just amazing how many enzymes and how many multiple structures we have, that we are supposed to use this to create the perfect blueprint and the perfect software so that it responds to what we want and to what we require. But if you damage the system, well, let me tell you that it's going to be very difficult to clean it after. So that's why I want you to understand the damage that you are performing. So step one is the lock. Let's explain this. Habits are locked via DNA methylation. So what is this? The chronic rewards that you are receiving, the triggers, writers, they are called these DMTs. They are enzymes that are methylating your DNA. And that methylation silence the control genes and lock in the habit at the cellular level. When these methyl groups occupy the promoter region, which is this region that is depicted here in red, then you have the silence of the gene, and that gene prevents the transcription factors, which are these structures that are going to read and decodify the information of that part of the DNA. So if it is blocked, if it's not going to be able to be read, Then, by recruiting these suppressor proteins, these writers establish a molecular architecture that makes the habit resistant to conscious intervention, and the software of your DNA is already damaged. So it has been updated to prioritize the addictive behavior because it has been locked, it has been blocked. And if you keep adding these methylations in other parts of your DNA or in multiple cells of your DNA, what is going to happen? Well, you become an addict of these things. That's why it's really difficult to get away. And that's why I'm explaining this, because we can do it. And I'm going to explain you the different mechanisms, the step two. One of the most significant molecular markers of this habit formation is the accumulation of another structure and another transcription factor, which is called the FOSB or FOSB. This transcription factor is uniquely stable and resilient to degradation. And this protein acts as a molecular switch by promoting long-term changes in the synaptic plasticity. And that makes the brain more sensitive to future rewards cues. What does this mean in terms of what is happening to you? Well, this means that anytime you get into your mobile device, instead of just needing 10 minutes of scrolling, you will need 20. The moment you get to the 20 minutes, and probably you stay there for a week, you start developing these methylation locks. And then in 1 week or in 2 weeks, you will need 30 or 40 minutes to become or to receive this dopamine surge that you are looking for. And like that, you are going to increase, and the level of screen time that you will have by, let's say, a month or 2 months, it's going to be amazing, and you will literally feel that you are wasting your life away. That's the real tragedy that is happening also for many children that are becoming addicted to this short form content, because these videos were designed to create these loops over and over again until you become numb and you really become depressed. So, what is happening if we want to start doing something for our DNA? How do we clean the system? We have these amazing TET enzymes that they are called the 1011 translocation family of enzymes. That's the technical name. And they serve as the eraser. And they clean your DNA of these methylation groups. So these are um, the good factors in your DNA that are the good police and monitors that are going to scan your DNA and clean these epigenetic marks. How do you make them more available? That's what I'm going to explain you at the end. But let's stay here and let's see how they work. These eraser enzymes can unwrite the habits by removing these methylation marks, and this process is supported by specific nutrients like vitamin C and folate. These are just some of them. I'm going to mention more at the end, so stay until the end. And what they do is that they are essential in the active DNA demethylation. These enzymes provide the mechanism for the brain to clean the slate, to clean the software, and to upgrade it to be healthier, to upgrade it to become again with the ability to have attention. And that's what we want. We want to develop this kind of clean DNA in our lives, because otherwise, what you are going to do, if you are not able to think, if you are not able to start doing what you do in your life, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to follow whatever trend they create. And I'm referring to the society manipulators, and you are just a puppet for them. So you become numb, you don't have perception, you don't even know how to think and solve problems. You are not motivated for your own life, and that becomes the adaptive mechanism in your life. And then you become a zombie, literally a zombie. Now, what happens in the balance that we could have? We have two systems. We have the pain and pleasure seesaw, and this is called the anxiety and anhedonia that we are looking for. We are creating this every high intensity dopamine spike. The brain, every time you give it this kind of high intensity dopamine, and I mean by digital exposure and too much time in the screens and this sugary food, then the brain aggressively tilts, changes toward the side of pain. And then you have a crash to maintain a balance because you feel completely depleted, and you feel completely lazy. You don't have any kind of motivation. That's what anhedonia means. And then you go for the cheap dopamine, and that is the stolen motivation. Cheap dopamine requires no effort, but it creates a massive dopamine deficit because it steals the motivation from your future self and makes long term effortful goals feel impossible because you suddenly don't know how to start becoming not addicted to these screens, to this sugary stuff that you are consuming. Why? Because of what I explained in the previous image. You have your DNA completely corrupted by these locks of the methyl groups. And then you create a chronic reliance on cheap dopamine. And this is the rewards that require little or no effort and leads to progressively lowering the dopamine baseline. So you are damaging your dopamine release system and you are creating a deficit that is really making you feel hopeless and really with no skills. And this explains why heavy users of this social media or the refined sugar that is also giving you these craves often report feeling unmotivated and brain fogged. Brain fog means that you are not able to have cognition, to learn anything, to sustain the attention, to see something and really extract the message of the things that you even read, watch, or listen. So you are unable to find joy in everyday activities. Why? Because you have this software that is completely blocked and is completely corrupted. When an individual consumes this cheap dopamine, they are effectively stealing the motivation from their future because they don't know what to do. And because the brain has a finite pool of this readily available dopamine, 1,000% spike from the digital trigger, and this is the percentage that I want you to really ingrain in your brain. 1,000% is the surge of dopamine that you are going to create, the spike of dopamine that you are going to create with these digital triggers. That's why they are so addictive. They create now a massive shortage for the next several hours or even days. That's why we're having a crisis in terms of young people feeling happy, feeling joyful, and enjoying simple activities. They are always mentioning that they are bored, that they are sad, that they are depressed. Of course, if they consume these levels of screen time and they then have these crashes and then they have these cravings for sugar, and you give them the sugar thinking that that is going to calm them down, you are just uh, doubling down on this mechanism of methylating the DNA. So you are really destroying their software. Now, what is happening in terms of the solutions? And this is the eudaimonia. And purpose is the key word that I want you to start paying attention, because purpose is going to be the anti-aging hack. Hedonia, this is different, is the transient pleasure and comfort. So this is what these devices are doing. They are driven by this excitatory dopamine and opioids, resulting in this rapid receptor downregulation. Also, now that you are mentioning the word receptor, you are having less receptors also, in addition to the methylation of your DNA. So you are really crashing your system. So you are biologically prone to the hedonic treadmill and always chasing more and increasing the pro-inflammatory gene expression, because all of these methylation marks, what they are creating in your biology is that they are functioning as a threat to your system. Once your DNA is hacked, once your DNA is methylated, you are perceiving this, your biology is perceiving this as a threat, and it starts defending itself, and you start having a cascade of pro-inflammatory substances. So what is going to happen? You are having a chronic inflammation. So eudaimonia, defined by Aristotle in the ancient times as a life of virtuous activity and the actualization of your potential. It is not a feeling, but it is a mode of functioning. It is a way to live. Research that has been performed nowadays into a region that is called conserved transcriptional response to adversity. The name is beautiful if you just separate the words. It is a conserved transcriptional response to adversity. So you have a region that is responding and trying to decodify the message when you have an adverse event. So this CTRA, that's the name in short, shows that the individuals with high eudaimonic well-being exhibit favorable genetic profiles. So the more you increase this region, the more you are going to have a long-term and well-being life. So this includes the reduced expression of pro-inflammatory genes and the increased expression of genes involved in antiviral responses. I will repeat that. You will create this region, you will expand this region, and you will clean your DNA with these eudaimonic rituals that is going to give you vitality and longevity. And you are going to exhibit a much better and clean DNA. That will include the reduced expression of pro-inflammatory genes and pro-inflammatory responses, and the increase of antiviral response. So, what kind of activities are those that are going to awaken this eudaimonia? Well, meaning and actualization. Purpose relies on this serotonin and oxytocin, having this contact with human beings, having this social life and doing something with your people, having these deep talks, providing a stable, sustained glow, because you are releasing these substances as you are just exchanging your experiences of life. And this acts as a genetic shield, reducing the inflammation and supporting your immune function to slow the biological aging. And that's why we see in the blue zones these communities that they support themselves, and they have this supportive network, social network. And I'm going to do in the near future an episode of friendship and how this amazing and simple act of having people around you that support you is the most advanced, uh, let's say, anti-aging strategy that you can develop. So communal drumming, dancing, chanting, or having just this experience of talking with other people triggers the release of endorphins and facilitate the self-other merging. So this creates a state of collective effervescence, and that strengthens the social bonds without the neurochemical crash. So having a social life instead of just becoming addicted to the screens is the strategy that you can start doing. Also, because so many young people are losing the ability to talk with other people, to interact, to just exchange a hello and a very superficial conversation that then it can sustain in time and become a very, very good experience. They are really, really losing the skills. So, what are the main and the reset protocol so that you can reclaim your biology and start having attention? Well, let's see. You can do a receptor recalibration, and this means a dopamine fasting. So, temporarily abstaining from these high reward stimuli forces the brain to upregulate the dopamine receptors and resensitizes the hedonic hotspots to simple pleasures. So, start with measuring the time. All of the devices that we have nowadays, they have screen time statistics. So watch your statistics to see how much you are having your mobile device and reduce it by 15 minutes. Then the next week, another 15 minutes, and then go like that. And by the time of 4 weeks, you have been reducing 1 hour, 1 hour per month. It means that you will recover 1 hour of your life to do anything that you want, and mostly having more social interaction. Next, there is an epinutrition protocol, and you can feed these TET enzymes. Consuming methyl donors like folate and choline and the TEAT cofactors like vitamin C provides these biological raw materials that will clean your DNA. Nutrients such as this folate found in dark and leafy greens, choline found in eggs and liver, and B12 in fish and meats are essential for this one carbon metabolism, which is going to be able to clean your DNA, providing this raw material for healthy DNA methylation, which means that you are going to increase the level of these TEAT enzymes. These enzymes require also vitamin C and another let's say, another subproduct of the Krebs cycle, which is in the carbohydrate split of the molecules, which is called alpha ketoglutarate. And this, when it has an oxidation process, it will create the protection for oxidation. So a diet rich in citrus fruits and cruciferous vegetables supports the removal of these maladaptive methyl marks, and compounds also supplements like curcumin, which is turmeric, and EGCG, which is green tea. It's found in green tea, and resveratrol in berries or any other dark skin fruit, act as modulators of the NMT activity. So moving a smartphone also And this is the last one, choice of your environment, choice of your architecture. The environmental default engineering of your system will make you be able to get away from these things. Willpower is finite. We all have a certain amount of willpower, but if you stay away from your phone and you leave it in another room, then the proximity will start adding an obstacle, and you will have to make an effort to go for your phone, and you won't do it if you are paying attention to something that really matters. So instead of having things available and readily at your hand, make them difficult to be accessed, or have locks in the time that you can watch these multiple social media apps. You can have this in any device right now also. You can lock the different apps so that you just stay in that app for 30 or 40 minutes, and that's it. And then it will become locked. Of course, you will have the password, but you can even put a password that maybe you don't remember, and that's going to be much better. So this is going to give you the strategy so that you can have much better healthy choices. Also, put your water, put your things that you require to have a healthier life in instead of these devices, and this will set your environment to have a low dopamine default. So you can also have this gray scale mode in your screens so that you don't become highly stimulated by the multiple colors, and you can stop watching so much short content and start reading more, start watching content that is longer and trying to understand the meaning of it, try to journal, and always have a purpose. Study, study the purpose driven. The task that you will start doing, what is the purpose of each of the tasks that you are having in your day? And have healthy meal options to anchor these decisions that you are having in your life. And in that way, you are going to create a process that is anchoring in the decision making process into long-term goals, and give you this access for a much healthier future life and future self, of course. So they are three very simple strategies that you can start doing. As I mentioned, you can start just reducing your screen time by 15 minutes every week, and that's going to be enough. In a matter of a month, and in 2 months, you recover 2 hours of your life. Doing it like that and increasing also these all additional strategies is going to give you your life back, and it's going to clean your software and upgrade it to a much better version. So I hope that I have helped you with these strategies to really understand why you need to clean your system and you need to become human again, because otherwise you are just a puppet for anything that is going to be in these trends of social exposure. And in a matter of days or weeks, you are going to start doing very stupid things that is going to damage your health. So stay in this process, be patient. Every one of us can do it, and every one of us has become at certain point addicted to these technologies. They are designed for that. So don't feel alone. There are a lot of people that are suffering of this, and just start slow, start with micro actions, but start now. If you like this episode, please, I just ask three things. First, subscribe to my channel. Second, listen to more episodes and give me a rating in these platforms, in these podcast platforms, so that the algorithm helps me so that more people start listening to this content. And finally, also give me your comments or suggest a guest that I can start interviewing. Thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.